Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Cindy and I'm an MD PhD student. I know my background is a little bit different today from all of my other videos. I am actually visiting my parents this week, but I'll be headed back up to New York again shortly. Today we're going to be talking about the Congress of Future Medical Leaders, which is a pre-med conference that I actually attended back in 2014. And just as a disclaimer before we begin, everything I discuss in this video is my own opinion and my own reflections from actually attending the conference back in 2014. So you might be wondering why I'm even talking about this since it's been so long since I attended. I actually didn't know this conference was still going on until I saw their ad keep popping up on my TikTok. And since then, I've made some short form videos on TikTok talking about my experiences. And now that I'm home this time, I actually have all of my receipts, just everything that I got from attending the conference. And so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to kind of go down memory lane a little bit, share about my experiences. And another reason why I'm still trying to discuss this and share my opinions on this conference is I'm just going to say the punchline. I don't think it's worth it. Again, this is my opinion and my opinion alone. And I think a long form format such as a YouTube video can kind of help me break down a lot more about what about this conference that I don't think is worth it. When you Google or YouTube perspectives on this conference, you will see people with mostly positive experiences. Just from a quick glance of just my YouTube search results, a lot of the students making testimonial videos are also high school students who had just freshly gone to the conference. They have rosy memories of it, which of course I'm really happy that they got so much out of the conference. But now as a medical student, I feel like I can talk a little bit about the hindsight of whether or not that conference actually helped my career. Because, as a parent or as a student thinking of going to this conference and dropping the money on the tuition, that is something you kind of want to know. And at the end of the day, you are free to make whatever decision you want. I am not the one to judge about stuff like this, but I want people to make the best choices for their own personal circumstances. So let's talk a little bit about how you get nominated for the conference. Well, I, like most other students, actually got a letter in the mail. This is what my nomination letter looked like. It looked very official. It has my name. It says, "Let it be known that I was nominated for the National Academy of Future Physicians and Medical Scientists Award of Excellence." I came across this TikTok about how you are nominated by the Congress, and I personally think it's quite enlightening. So let's look at the TikTok now.
Did you get a letter in the mail saying that you had been chosen for the Congress of Future Medical Leaders, blah, 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 blah? I don't want to say this is a scam, because if you go, you probably would learn some cool things, maybe, and you might meet some interesting people. But is this type of a program actually worth what they are selling? Anytime that you get an invitation to something out of the blue, you should be a little skeptical about how they found out about you or where your information came from. A student sent me a picture of the letter that they got, and they straight up said that it was because the student checked a box on their college board PSAT that allows them to be part of this thing called a student search service or something, where basically organizations and colleges can purchase your contact information from the PSAT or the SAT if you have if you report a certain GPA or a certain test score. So yeah, there might be students who are selected other ways, but other educational avenues means that they buy your contact information from the SAT.
This is just a chunk of the TikTok. They point out some other red flags about the invitation. So I'll link her TikTok down below. I don't think my letter says what kind of way I was actually nominated by. So my kind of hunch is I was also nominated through some SAT or PSAT, that checkbox that says, hey, I allow colleges and other organizations to email me and send mail to me. I'm sure another way you can get nominated is through your teacher or your school counselor. But back in high school, I really do not remember telling any of my teachers that I was interested in medicine. So I don't really think any of them would necessarily go out of their way to nominate me for this. Interestingly, I think there is a program that they have that you can nominate other students. So any student that fulfills some minimum requirement, like a GPA requirement, for example. And if you nominate them, you get a certain amount off of your tuition. So that's technically another way you can get nominated for this type of conference. The kind of letter package that I received came with a couple different things. One of them being, I guess, the certificate of nomination. This is what it looks like. Has my name on it. Looks very official. This document kind of just explaining I guess, code of conduct, their policies for refund, this little pamphlet saying international prize winners and medical school deans mentoring nominees. I will draw attention to the word mentoring here. It does sound very, I guess, one-on-one and personal, but really what this means is these are the speakers at the conference. And then just the letter congratulating me on my nomination, as well as what's gonna be at the Congress. So for example, they say that there's a live surgery. They say that there will be mentors in the world of medicine, Nobel Prize winners. But again, that's just the speakers, basically. In my opinion, these are not really mentors. These are more just like conference speakers. There'll be a college fair. There'll be a photo op, it says here, and I will get an award called the National Academy of Future Physicians Award of Excellence. And there's one paragraph which honestly I found a little bit disingenuous, but it was the paragraph I think that ultimately convinced me that perhaps this is a worthwhile experience to go to. And so I was kind of able to convince my parents, hey, like I really want to be able to do this. It's going to be really helpful for me. The paragraph states, your attendance at the Congress will enrich your academic profile and distinguish you when you're applying to competitive colleges and universities. It will be an important part of your showcase of extracurricular experience and achievements as you write application essays and prepare for college interviews. So yeah, I think this paragraph alone, I just didn't know any better, and it was very enticing. And last but not least, in this letter in the mail, I also got this little booklet. It's the acceptance of nomination. Inside, they tell you the price. And it is $985 for tuition only. And if you want the concierge package, it is $1,585. The concierge package just includes things like pickup from the airport or the train station, a hotel accommodation, which you would be living with 2 or 3 students for 3 nights, and resident assistants who will also stay at the hotel with the students. So that's what the concierge package is. Okay, so that is the initial letter. So why did I decide to go? That one paragraph about how this experience is going to be so beneficial, it will look good on college applications, etc., etc. That was kind of the big reason on why I decided to go. And of course, there were some attractive features, for example, like the college fair, the live surgery, the mentorship, which, to be fair, I did think it was going to be more like in a small group setting, but it wasn't. But those were kind of the attractive features that weren't necessarily available to me at my high school. And so I thought, hey, going to this conference would be really, really beneficial, and it would help me talk to people who might be able to open some doors for me. Basically, we didn't know any better, and we genuinely thought this was a prestigious opportunity and that it would potentially help with college admissions and even potentially medical school admissions down the line. So now let's talk a little bit about the cost and what you get. The cost of attending this Congress back in 2014 was $985. I'm sure in 2025, the cost is a little bit higher. I don't exactly know the cost anymore because I'm not getting this invitation in the mail. And I think you can only see the tuition once you get it in the mail. But according to my TikTok comments and also Google, I believe it's probably in the ballpark of like $1,500 to $2,000. But in reality, right, my parents and I spent more than the $985. Like, we had to factor in airfare, we had to factor in transportation when we were there, food, hotel. And of course, I was like 16 or 17, so my dad came with me, and so you double the price of that. All that is to say, all these extra expenses, they add up, and I don't necessarily think this is a conference that is cheap or accessible to students. So for $985 back in the day, like, what did I get for going to this conference? Well, first off, this conference was actually held in the Armory at DC, and so it's kind of like a bleachers situation. It's like a big room with tons of people. I think that's important to note. So on the first day, on Friday, a couple remarks, welcomes, and then the group activities is really just us on the bleachers and turning to the student next to us or like around us. That's what the group activities meant. And you're just really like supposed to discuss things with the other students around you in these bleachers. And there's a couple of different remarks on the schedule, but what that means is just it's a talk by accomplished people. And you just sit in your little bleacher seat and you listen to them. And so now on Saturday, you actually get more talks, but I think a lot of the students were very interested and excited in the live surgery observation that was happening that morning. I wasn't exactly sure what I was expecting, and I kind of do understand why they presented the live surgery to us in the way that they did, because honestly, now as a medical student, I don't know how else they could have done it. And what it basically was there's a surgeon somewhere in the world, he's doing this surgery, and then he just like broadcasts the surgery. Like there's a camera that aims down at the field. Like I don't really remember if students were able to ask questions and pass it to like some kind of moderator or something to give to the surgeon. But yeah, that was that. It wasn't particularly long. It was just kind of an experience, and you got to see a surgery and say that you saw a surgery. But I would also say it's just such a detached kind of experience. Like you can't say that you shadowed someone from like watching this live stream of a surgery. Also at the same time, I can argue there's so many surgery videos on YouTube that you can like just look at, and it's pretty much the same thing. Like people make surgery videos for medical education and to teach med students and residents, and this was like kind of the same thing. I guess maybe the only difference is that you're surrounded by hundreds of other students. So yeah, the rest of the day was mostly just more talks from scientists and other famous people. I will say though, some of the talks were pretty interesting. Like for example, I do vividly remember the Harvard transplant surgeon's talk, and I also remember the patient who received the transplant. And then on the last day, there is just more talks. A little less exciting, I think, than Saturday because there's no live surgery. And then you'll see on all the lunch and dinner breaks, there are, I guess, networking opportunities where you get to talk to volunteers. So like physicians, med students, scientists, undergrads, and speakers. From my experience, when I went in 2014, I did kind of feel like the ratio of mentor to student was a little bit imbalanced. And so I really didn't talk to anyone that was like that memorable. Usually you'll just see like a whole group of students crowded around one person, and unless you're like super assertive and aggressive and like asking your question and things like that, it's really difficult to actually talk to them. And so yeah, I don't think I stuck around after dinner on the last day just because I didn't really care that much about the award ceremony, and I also didn't really care that much about the dance. And so yeah, that's the schedule and what you get for $985. That's a schedule from 2014, so things might as well have changed since then. As far as I know, they are still doing the live surgery situation. I do think that's a huge draw for students, and I totally understand why it's a huge draw for students. Like for me as a medical student now who have actually been in an OR, I feel like getting a random surgery broadcast to you via live stream is not that appealing, but I do see why they continue to do that, and I understand that it's a draw for many students. But I think the format of the recent Congress schedule that they have posted on their website is still kind of a combination of speakers and networking opportunities. And I guess as a couple things that you can get from this conference, they send you, of course, your little badge, your scholar badge. It's funny because I opened it. I think we were supposed to write like what about the conference was inspiring us. So I was a really good student and I wrote down all the things that inspired me that day. They also sent me this commemorative ticket, and they sent me a letter about this saying that it's mine to keep and there's actually no use for it other than just it being a memento. And a couple weeks after the Congress, I did get this sent to my school. Not to me, sent to my school, which was very interesting. I remember my teacher being like, I got this, and it was addressed to you, Cindy. It kind of makes me feel like they did that so they can like entice other students to want to go if they put a lot of pomp and circumstance around it and have my teacher present it to me in class, which my teacher did. Like, she actually kind of made it a big deal. And I guess with the $980 or whatever, you get a potential line on your resume. Was it ever a line on a resume? Probably when it came to college admissions, but I don't think it ever played a big part in actually getting me admitted anywhere. Which brings me to the last part of this video. Does this actually look good on your college applications / potentially your medical school applications? My opinion is no, it doesn't. I think at this point, college admissions see right through things like this as something that is just pay to play. Pay the $985 or whatever the tuition is these days, and you can go and get this honor. I will also say no reputable award will cost you $900 to obtain. And for medical school admissions, there's so many things you should be doing for medical school admissions, and you don't even need to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Like, this will not help you on your application. If you find that you really wanted to see the speakers talk and you're really interested in that and you're really interested in a live surgery and you think all of that is worth the tuition price tag, then by all means, go for it. But is it a activity that will enrich your academic profile and distinguish you when you're applying to competitive college and universities? I don't think so. What I would actually recommend doing if you're high school or interested in medicine and you do want to build your resume and you do want to stand out for colleges and universities is, one, to go out there and volunteer in your community. There are many hospitals with kind of summer volunteer programs for high schoolers that you can look into. And through those summer volunteering programs, you can also potentially get connected to physicians who might be willing to let you shadow. So instead of a live stream surgery, you might actually get to go into an OR and see a surgery like in front of you. Another thing that could be beneficial is potentially finding a professor to do research with. That can also really help boost your resume. I have made a video about this in the past on how to do this as a high schooler and a college student, so I'll link that down below. And if you do research, you have opportunities to go to research conferences to present your results, and I would say that holds a lot more weight than going to a pre-med conference. And at those research conferences, again, it's similar in that you get to listen to really accomplished speakers. You also get to network, but it'll actually hold some weight on your resume if you went to the research conference to present your own research. So to wrap up this video, do I think the Congress of Future Medical Leaders is a scam? No, because technically they do deliver on the things that they promised. They promised a conference with speakers, which that is what it is. You do get the speakers and you do get a live surgery. However, I do think there are parts of their marketing material that is disingenuous, and I personally don't think it is helpful at all for your college application, and definitely not helpful at all for your medical school application. And so for that reason, I really can't recommend it. I wish my parents hadn't spent this money, and I wish we had known better. In my opinion, this is one of those pay-to-play things, and there's so many of those out there. They're just targeting high schoolers, they're targeting pre-meds, asking them to pay an exorbitant amount of money under the guise of, hey, this is going to be so beneficial for your future career, whatever. When in reality, like, admissions can see through that. So yeah, that's going to be the video for today. Again, everything mentioned in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. I just personally think there's way better things to spend your money on. But with that being said, if you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below if you want to see more about medical school admission, grad school admissions, and my own journey as an MD PhD student. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!